Hello and welcome to this webinar on Of Mice and Men, Curley in quotations. We have three key learning aims. First of all, we want to understand how key quotations really reveal Curley's character. And we want to link those quotations to some of the key themes and ideas of the novel, as well as using subject terminology to analyze them. Now, if you remember that Curley is the boss's son, he has a special privilege on the ranch. He is above the men and he doesn't work for a living because his father is the boss. However, he's very short in stature, which is a problem for him. And it says that he doesn't like big guys. The first quotation really encapsulates him in two key quotations, key adjectives: calculating and pugnacious. Calculating means that he's always manipulative and trying to see how he can exploit and take advantage of other people's weaknesses. Pugnacious means that he's quick-tempered. He wants to get into a fight. Perhaps you've met people who are like, what are you looking at? That kind of personality that quickly wants to get into a fight and quite vicious, wanting to unleash their anger. So you can see that perhaps he has what you call a chip on his shoulder. That means he's got an element of bitterness. Something's happened in his life. He feels a sense of injustice. He feels that he has to constantly be proving himself. This quotation says, Curley burst into the room. "Seen my wife?" he demanded. Now that adjective burst that verb burst really shows that kind of energy and that kind of negative energy that he carries around. You've got verbs like he whipped round and lashed his body round. So that constant sense of him charging and barging with the other men. "Seen my wife?" he demanded. And this broken elliptical sentence, he demanded, that verb as well shows that he's constantly making his presence and his superiority made known. Also, his wife is a symbol of status. It says, the other men say that he has a glove full of Vaseline to keep soft for his wife. The status symbol, this kind of trophy wife that he constantly wants to have with him to show the other men that he's superior, to show her who's boss, again shows that sense of insecurity and constantly having to prove himself that Curley is. Then it says, the next minute, Curley was flopping like a fish on the line. If you remember chapter 3, the 3 P's, the pup, the possibility of the ranch, and the punch up, Curley has been goading Lenny. He's been trying to show that he is better than Lenny, but he doesn't realize that Lenny is unpredictable and vicious, and Lenny knows no rules when he's fighting, and he's flopping like a fish on a line. Now this simile shows that he's completely helpless at this point. It's dehumanizing him, as often the writer does with Lenny, but with the animals that Lenny is being compared to, bears and bulls, he's being compared to a fish on a line, someone who's trapped and helpless. This quotation is also in chapter 3, where Curley finally, his hand's been crushed, blood is pouring from his hand, but he's been convinced by Slim and the other men to not get Lenny sacked, because then he has to confess that Lenny beat him in a fight, and he doesn't want to admit that a big guy beat him, which will crush that sense of self-esteem that he's tried so hard to maintain. So he says, "I won't tell." So these monosyllabic words shows that he decides to be silent, and he is not happy to be forced into a corner to swear secrecy that he's been beaten by Lenny. Now, his wife says this next quotation, "I don't like Curley. He ain't a nice fella." Now, she's cryptic. She doesn't explain why she doesn't like her own husband, but there are all sorts of things that can be implied. Perhaps there's domestic violence, domestic abuse, neglect. But the fact that she says in confidence to Lenny, "He ain't a nice fellow," again is giving us this idea of the vicious side, and really it's linking with the key theme here about sexism and how women are exploited in this era. These final quotations show a really sadistic side to Curley that perhaps explains why his wife doesn't like him. When he finds out his wife has been murdered by Lenny, it says that Curley came suddenly to life. He's enjoying the fact that he can get revenge, and he says, shoot for the guts. So that means if Lenny is shot, he will suffer maximum pain and bleed out to death. So this vicious and sadistic side really is emphasizing this theme of violence and revenge. I hope this has helped you to understand this pugnacious character of Curley. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.